My name is Heun. I'm a consultant psychiatrist and professor of psychiatry, and recently some people asked me to extend our series Mental Health Explained to personality disorder and to describe individual disorders. I start with the grouping or classification of personality disorders today. And personality is something which is different in every person. And usually a disorder is when people have problems. Sometimes in personality disorder is the fact that the patients or the one who has a personality disorder doesn't have the problem, but it's the other people who are around them. An example being a paranoid personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, but we'll come to that. Okay, so usually personality disorders are classified categorial. That means, in one group like the other, and different disorders, so you have it or you don't have it, and that's what we mean categorial. But usually personalities are dimensional, which means, we have specific, let's say, personality disorder, or we're on a spectrum of paranoia. So that means, we all sometimes are a bit critical. We sometimes, when someone comes in the bus and smiles at us, then they're nice people, or that they're against us, and if they look grim, but we don't account for the fact that they might have other problems why they don't smile today. So this is something we make assumptions about other people, which can or cannot be paranoid. They can be right, they can be wrong, but this is dimensional. We all have something like that, and if people just find that everybody who enters a bus is against them, then that's possibly something which causes them problems, and it's then caused paranoid, especially if they have specific ideas why people don't smile, why do people look at them. Very, very common that people get into trouble because they feel other people look at them too much, and that's sometimes the common reason for a British pub crawl. Anyway, come back to the main causes. It's not known. It's not clearly known why people have specific type of disorders. The origins are more or less unknown. One of the problems is with the criteria are much overlapping. Many people have more than one symptoms from a specific type of personality disorder, and sometimes the diagnosis is not very helpful because we all have different personality disorders. It's sometimes more important for a psychiatrist to understand the person, or clinical psychologist to understand the person, see whether there are problems, and work with the problems more with the general feeling of personality disorder. Okay. Sometimes, different classifications have put personality disorders in different categories. At the moment, we work with ICD-10, the International Classification of Diseases, number 10. I think ICD-11 has been published, but it hasn't been applied properly in the scientific or in the clinical domains. We have the DSM-5 already, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for mental health disorders. Usually, as a European, I would go with ICD-10, and this is where we go today. Right, okay, so we have different groups of personality disorder, and sometimes they have been classified in groups, which is a bit odd. But we have a cluster A, and which is odd, eccentric, named, and they include paranoid, schizotypal, and schizoid personality disorder. Cluster B, emotional and dramatic, and antisocial, histrionic, narcissistic, and borderline personality disorders are in it. We also have fearful, anxious cluster, which avoidant, dependent, obsessive compulsive disorder or personality disorder in it. So what are the individual features of the personality disorders which are commonly described and accepted? So one is paranoid personality disorder, where people are very sensitive, suspicious, preoccupied with conspirational explanations, self-referential, and lots of distrust towards others, which can then take over their lives. Schizoid personality disorder is someone who is emotionally very cold, detached, has a lack of interest in others, has excessive introspections and lots of fantasies, but it's more or less be seen as a cold and less engaging personality disorder, which are very often very isolated. Schizotypal personality disorder are persons with peculiar ideas, weird perceptions. Sometimes they have a weird experience and different behavior. They might have odd ways to write, odd ways to cook, or odd ways to behave towards others. Towards others, that's usually the problem. Some of these disorders are sometimes seen in people with schizophrenia who might dress very oddly, but at the moment, that's more or less permissive. So, okay, coming to antisocial or dissocial personality disorders. These are people who have no concern to others or complete lack towards the pain others perceive. They behave irresponsible. They might be very irritable, aggressive. In their aggression, they're unable to maintain enduring or constant relationships. They disregard and violate others' rights, and very often there is a development which goes back into childhood, and in childhood we call it childhood conduct disorder. A very common personality disorder seen in the hospital is emotionally unstable personality disorder. There are two types, impulsive or borderline. One is the emotionally unstable personality disorder, with the impulsive types is the inability to control anger, to control the mood. Changing of plans is very common, changing of interests, and quite unpredictable affect and behavior. So that's one part. The borderline part is something which is difficult because it has been initially sometimes described as a borderline, as a symptoms of borderline between psychosis and normality. So people have unclear identity, intensive but very unstable relationship. They're unpredictable in their effects, their threats towards others, but the most important is extreme frequency of self-harm, impulsivity, and history of suicide. And this history of suicide is what brings people into hospital, because people then get in contact with the police, with the medical services, or their disorders becomes apparent to the family. So that's why people with borderline personality disorders are very often seen in hospitals, and sometimes very frequently in GP and psychiatric practices. Okay, histrionic personality disorder is something behaving dramatic, sometimes having a shallow effect, a bit of eccentricity, but there is also craving attention, excitement, and sometimes very manipulative behaviors towards others. So people might be shout a lot, waiting for attention, act a bit, cry loud, or cry intensively just to achieve something. Something similar is narcissistic personality disorder, where this self-dramatization comes with grandiosity, lack of empathy, and the want and need for admiration. So from the other cluster, from the C cluster, we have avoidant personality disorder. People avoid tensions, they are very self-conscious, they have a fear of negative evaluation by others, they're shy, they're insecure, and try to avoid rejection. And in this behavior, in the way to avoid rejection is very often to avoid contact. And people might not have seen relatives, neighbors for weeks on end because they avoid the contact, don't pick up the phone, and might only go for shopping for the essentials. Okay, anarchistic personality disorder is something which is a bit related to obsessive compulsive disorder. Lots of doubt, lots of indecisiveness, very cautious behavior, but also the specific rigidity, discussing the same thing, pedantic in doing things, in whatever, cleaning, in cooking food, has to be in the same way, has to be perfect, and there's lots of preoccupation with orderliness and control of what can be seen, what can be managed. Dependent personality disorders are very, as it says, dependent, as it says in the tin. They're clinging, they're very submissive, they have an excessive need for care, and they feel helpless when not in a relationship. They drag for other people to contact them. And one thing I've found very often that people ask, that they say, dear doctor, my husband or my wife patronizes me and she tells me what to do all the time. What shall I do about that? So that's what happens. They ask the questions and they give the answer. Okay, so this is personality disorder. Today we will go into the details. We have a recent video of narcissistic personality disorder, and I hope you enjoy all the series of disorders, either in face-to-face, and if not, just put it on your radio in the car and you will hear lots of mental health educational videos or talks. Okay, thanks a lot for your interest, and have a nice day. And if you like us, just click the button, and if you want to hear more, just subscribe, or do you think other people might profit from that, please ask them to have a look at our videos and subscribe. Thanks a lot and have a nice day.